Hi, everyone. This is your core family here in West Palm Beach, Florida, and we're just popping in to say hello, happy holidays, and to share with you a few thoughts on the topic of hope.
Why would we be talking about the topic of hope?
That is a good question. Oh, you want me to answer that?
I do.
Okay, so here's the thing. Some of you may know this already, but others of you may not. Earlier this year, CORE went through a big change, at least it was big for us on this end of the world, when we decided to change our URL, which is where you find us on the internet, our website address, from CORE BHC to hopeforus.com. It was one of those conversations we had for a very long time, trying to figure out what words or phrases or letters or designations seemed appropriate for the work that we do and for what we are all about here at CORE. So with that, we thought that talking about hope would be a good way to kind of close out the year as we segue into 2019.
We have so much hope for you. Galen sent out a message on the internet asking for questions and comments about hope, asking if you all wanted us to talk about anything specifically. And what came out of that for me was that I wanted to talk about a time when I felt hopeless and what pulled me out of that. Is that okay with you guys? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I found one of my trusty journals, which I never seem to write in. But I found this this little message in here to remind me of how far I've come in my journey about hope. I listened to myself being made wrong while feeling hurt and confused. I feel dead listening to the voices in my head telling me I am wrong for being emotional, intense, and wanting more. I want to feel alive, and I only have stolen moments. Excuse me, very few quiet, stolen moments when I can swim through the guilt, the shame, the humiliation, and the sadness of living a life that feels like a cop-out. The hurt of being married to a man I love who thinks it's all my fault. I read that wrong. The hurt of being married to a man I love who thinks it's all my fault has made me feel hopeless. How can he even hear, see, love, or choose me if I am only wrong? Of course, there's not a date on it. I don't know when I wrote it. I'm sure that it was in the first couple of years of our journey. And I wanted to say that I would go back and I would read my journal entries and try to put my analytical brain on to see what clues the written word had for me. What I heard in that journal entry was a cry for self, a cry to be seen for who I really was. Yet, down deep inside, I think that the most hopeless feelings were that I had given up who I really was. So I remember setting off on an odyssey of discovery about who I really was, what mattered to me, what I loved doing, who I loved being with, things that made me feel alive. I have often called those moments of grace. And if you notice all of the moments of grace and string them together, all of a sudden you're living a life of grace. Hope for me was healing myself. And I wish that same hope for you.
We're both looking at James.
I know we are.
So I have a stack of 25 journals from the start of recovery nearly 7.5 years ago. And when I go back through those, incredible how I thought then, 7 years ago, and then as that changed in me. So how much blame there was, how much playing the victim, how much I pitied myself and went into shame all the time. And then as time went on and I look at those journals over the years, it's very apparent that I began to let go of those things. And there are significant places along the way where I had aha moments, largely due to my work in SLAA and with my sponsor, and a lot to do with Sharon setting fantastically solid boundaries with me. I was forced to look at where I was coming from and what I was doing, what I was thinking, and how my life to that point had affected the way that I thought and felt. And so as I track it through those years, and those significant times of change came along, there's a point at which, right around the 3 to 4 year period, where, and bear in mind, I had no treatment beyond SLAA and a therapist. I did not go to treatment.
You can go to great intensives.
I did not go to great
Didn't go to
intensives
CORE?
like CORE. And I wish that those had been available then, because my journey would have been so much faster. So that self-discovery, working deeply on my behavioral stuff to begin with, which was actually really very quick, and then working on the deeper reasons why I was acting in that way and why I was thinking the way I was, why I was feeling the way I was, and getting myself out of that victim place was a progression over that time. So some light switches turning on here and there, but mostly not. It's mostly sort of like a dimmer switch, slowly getting brighter. And probably it's still going to continue to get brighter as I do more work and as Sharon and I deepen our relationship, and as we work with people like you who need our help and for whom we can be an example of how well this journey of recovery works.
I felt the beginning of hope for us when I saw your thinking change, when you started being less resentful and less judgy.
Judge Judy?
Well, I was going to say Judge Judy, but I'd hate for Judge Judy to watch this
She
and
might be a
feel bad.
wonderful person.
So I think that if you are looking for hope for your coupleship, that might be one of the cues, is when you see thinking starting to change, not speaking, but thinking and behaving.
And acting. It is not acting like acting, but the actions. Actions are truth. Words are words. You know, I promise you I'll get better. I promise you I won't do that. Until it's in action, and when you see it, when you feel it, that's where you know.
Do you have a story of hope?
Story of hope. So there's a story that I have held close to my heart for a really long time, and I really like to share it with the women I meet and the couples I work with toward the really beginning of their journey. This woman once told me that she walked into her very first support group and looked around the room and said, "I feel so hopeless." And she's telling the story, and she said afterward, all of the women in the room rushed up to her and said, "It's okay. It's okay that you feel hopeless." And she was so disturbed and so upset by them saying that. And she said, "No, it's not okay. It's not okay that I have no hope for my marriage. And they stepped up and they said, okay, let's try this again. Let's explain what we really mean. What we really mean is it's okay in this moment if you don't have hope for your relationship, because part of that is our job. Part of that job is for us to step up and surround you and offer our hope on your behalf, even if you can't grasp onto it in this moment for yourself. That's always stood by me. And so we, with some of my friends and I and my clients as well, kind of have this thing back and forth and say to each other, let us be your hope holders this week if there's a time when that hope feels particularly elusive.
And I think that hope rings through the halls of CORE, that ability to hold hope. We do often say to partners and to their men, we will hold a safe space for you. We will hold that hope for you. Hopeforus.com wasn't just a decision about hope for you, but it was hope for us as well. We travel this journey each and every day, and so we have hope for you, hope for us.
And I would add on that, I think that we, working within this field of couples and individuals healing from sex addiction, from betrayal trauma, we also have growing hope for this community at large, as a whole. We kind of joked about it a few minutes ago, but when you started your journey 7.5 years ago, when I started mine 12 years ago, places like CORE and other organizations like APSATS, the Association of Partners of Sex Addicts Trauma Specialists, so many bloggers, books, websites, resources, podcasts, things that didn't exist years ago are gaining speed, they're gaining momentum, they're gaining following, they're gaining strength, they're gaining voice, becoming more solid, stronger voices for boundaries, for health, for wellness, for something bigger and better than just sobriety in sex addiction recovery. It's something that really excites us. It's what keeps us engaged going into work every day.
Yes. I also feel so hopeful about the organizations that are beginning to understand the need for the trauma work that needs to happen, not just with each individual in the coupleship, but the coupleship as well. We fight for families, and I feel like that as you all know, we are on the board of APSATS, and we feel so strongly about the message that they are teaching therapists and coaches, so that we can change the way that treatment is being seen. It's not just for the addict, it's for the whole family. It's for the partner, it's for the addict, it's for their coupleship and their family.
I'd like to speak quickly here to addicts. When I started out, I was hopeless. I thought that I knew that my soul was dying, and I was probably about that close to a soul death, which would have ended up with simply being a life of enduring rather than a life of hope and love and faith and connection. I never thought that was possible. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what intimacy was. I thought intimacy was whatever was intense, extremely intense, but intimacy is this beautiful connection that has its own type of calm, flowing intensity, if that makes sense. That lack of hope, that hopelessness, led me to very, very dark places in that first year. And I just want to say that you keep putting one foot in front of the other. If engage in 12-step, engage in therapy, engage in treatment. One study shows that if you do all of those things for 1 year, and I'm not saying to stop at them, but that's just the end of the study, was 80% recovery rate. That's recovery, not sobriety. Sobriety is basically not doing the things that you were doing. Recovery is the richness of connection between you and your partner.
And then with others.
And then with
In the
others.
world.
And part of the beauty of 12-step programs and group therapy is that you learn how to connect with people and share who you are. It takes bravery, it takes courage, it takes pushing through it, takes using that masculinity that you've used in so many other ways that hasn't worked for you, and using it towards your own healing and the healing of your coupleship. And it takes determined, in my phraseology, determined hope, which
Very nice.
which is intentional. You know, there's an absolute intention of I'm going to listen. When I was first in SLAA and people with time were telling their stories and talking about what they were working on at that time, I thought that's just out of reach. I don't know who these people are and how they got there. That's not me. I'm never going to get there. So what really hit me was some of the people who had a month, who had 2 months, who had a little bit more time than me and were starting to feel just a smidgen of hope because they were starting to improve and things were starting to improve for them, at least on a behavioral basis. And so it was their stories and their shares that really got me. And then as time went on, those people with more time, I was able to really hear and connect with what they said because I was starting to get that. So there is hope. You have to keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when you don't want to. When you get this thought, I don't want to go to a meeting tonight, or I don't want to go to that group, or I don't want to go to my therapy session, or I don't want to journal, or I don't want to read my readings. That's when you have to. That's the time when you have to say, no, there's no choice. I have to do this, because that's the indicator where you're going to take that dive into hopelessness again. And so you need that support.
We hope that you will reach out to the folks who love you and believe in you so that you're not isolated during the holiday season. There are so many organizations, as Galen was saying, that you can reach online and that you can find in service organizations, hopefully in your town. Don't isolate. Don't feel that you are the only person who feels the way that you do, because we have all felt it. We also know what it feels, how it feels to have hope again. So reach out. If you want to know more about our services, please go to our website,
www.hopeforus.com.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.